Vancouver Library for providing this spacious and convenient meeting place, to CVTV for recording and making this forum available later online, to candidates for taking time out of your busy campaign schedules, to members of the audience for your interest in public affairs. Also, there may be representatives from the press here to report, and I believe there is. League members here tonight to help, including our timekeepers, Joe Waddell and Edric Geiger, are Deanne Finken, Gail Lieberman, Rita Rubenstein, and Susan Strisver. We couldn't do it without them. Candidates will be seated in the order in which they appear on the ballot and will answer questions in a rotation, so each gets a chance to answer first and last. Our timers will ensure that candidates have the same amount of time to answer. Besides responding to questions, each candidate may give a 1-minute opening statement and a 1-minute closing statement. The questions have been prepared by the League of Women Voters with input from the community. The questions will be projected onto the screen as they're read. The number in parens after each question indicates the time allocated for answering. We'll start with Fire Protection District number 6, Commissioner position number 2. So we need Mr. LaFavor and Mr. Pfeifer. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
We'll start with 1-minute opening statements. Mr. LaFavor, you're first.
Thank you. So thank you for being here tonight. I've been a volunteer with District 6 for 24 years. I'm married to my wife for 25 years. I have 2 kids. And as a commissioner, the first thing that my goal is to keep the department fiscally responsible. Second goal would be to keep us poised to, as the community grows, to be able to continue providing the same amount of service and protection in both EMS and fire services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pfeifer.
You bet, you bet. I grew up in our local community, and my family and I live in Philida. I've had a career in the fire service lasting over 20 years. I began as a student volunteer, and currently I'm a lieutenant with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in Fire Services Administration from Eastern Oregon University, and I'm also a paramedic. If elected, one of the goals that I have is to place an emphasis on the fire district's plan for growth and expansion. With all of the local development currently taking place and all that is planned, I think it's imperative to have a plan in place for this. Another goal that I have would be to maintain our current levels of funding. That way we have our continued ability to support fast and effective emergency response.
Okay, thank you. First question, Mr. Pfeifer, what are the 3 most significant functions performed by the district?
Well, first and foremost, it's emergency medical response. That's the greatest section of calls in which we respond. Over 80% of our responses are generally for medical-related issues. Second would be fire and rescue response. So we have an all-hazards response. We respond on structural fires, wildfires, mitigate hazardous materials responses. And last, the third most significant function that we do or that we would have is our community outreach. It's a big part. We are fortunate at Fire District 6 to have a fire cadet program for juniors and seniors in high school. We've also got we teach CPR in the classroom, and that's a big thing as our high school seniors are graduating with an understanding of how to perform CPR. We also offer community outreach, citizens emergency response training, and that's to arm and equip our citizens in their neighborhoods how to navigate or protect themselves in the event of natural disaster.
Thank you. Mr. LaFavor?
Thank you. So as Mr. Pfeifer stated, emergency medical services is probably number one, fire suppression, number two. Third, as he put, is community outreach, but the one that I see as being a very significant part also is our volunteer regiment. We have a very robust volunteer people, sorry, and this service provides the community at no cost with backfilling stations and taking care of the community when the career folks are out on their, everybody's been taken out of the stations and we're down to no response at that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question number 2. What do you think is the most important responsibility a commissioner faces, and why? The most important responsibility, Mr. LaFavor.
So the most important responsibility I believe that a commissioner faces would be fiscal responsibility. The funds that the community is entrusted the department with is paramount, making sure that we use them effectively and plan for the future and have the ability to staff up and change as our demographic changes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pfeifer?
Maintaining transparency to the public is really of utmost importance. We do need to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, all of which is allowing us to provide the best level of service possible to the citizens.
Okay, question number 3. Select one challenge for Fire Protection District number 6. Tell how you think the district should address this challenge. Mr. Pfeifer, you're first.
You know, I think the biggest challenge facing Fire District 6 is going to be our ability to deal with growth and how to handle that increase in call volume associated with that. I will address that, as Fire Commissioner, I will address that through appropriate and proper planning. The framework for this has sort of already been laid here at District 6. In 2018, the Citygate Group developed a master plan for the fire district and how to grow with the community and increase the level of services that we're able to provide. Just this year alone, our call volume is up 13%, and that has been consistent over the last 10 years. So our ability to continue to be able to provide that service is what's going to be the most important going forward.
Okay, thank you. Mr. LaFavor?
Thank you. One major challenge I see for the district is finding qualified candidates and people to replace the vast majority of firefighters that we're having retiring. With the amount of people that are retiring, it's paramount that we do a good job of recruiting and making sure that we are diversifying and giving everybody that wants the opportunity to be a part of the district.
Okay, thank you. Question number 4. What are the major components that fund the district's budget, such as taxes, grants, private dollars, etc.? Mr. LaFavor?
So the two major components that fund the district are, number one, the tax base that's provided by each year the taxes that are collected, and through grants and federal funding to the department.
Okay. Mr. Pfeifer?
Fire District 6 is what's classified as a junior taxing district, and it's funded through 2 different streams. There's an EMS fund or an EMS levy that's renewed every 6 years by the voters. And secondly, it's supported through a fire suppression levy. And so those 2 streams provide our advanced level life support funding and emergency medical equipment and associated items for that. And the other being the fire suppression, that funds our operations and our equipment associated with that. For the year 2019, the fire suppression levy rate is $1.19 per 1,000 of assessed value, and the EMS is 39 cents.
Okay, thank you. Question number 5. What community experience have you had with diversity? How may it influence your decisions as a commissioner? Mr. Pfeifer?
Well, I work in the public sector myself, and every day I work as an emergency responder. I work in diverse settings. I view this as a strength in recognizing that everyone has something to offer, and everyone can bring something to the table to make that a better team.
Okay, thank you. Mr. LaFavor?
Thank you. I work in the private sector, and diversity is something that is encouraged at my place of employment. We strive both in the private sector where I work and also in the department with the volunteer firefighters to encourage diversity both in gender and ethnicity. Excuse me. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, time for closing statements, 1-minute closing statements. Mr. LaFavor, you're first.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for being here this evening, and if elected as a fire commissioner, as I stated to begin with, that fiscal responsibility is something that I'm very concerned with, and also that we are poised to make sure that as the community grows and changes, that we can keep in pace both with our apparatus, training, and with providing the services needed in the same manner that they've been in the past. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pfeifer?
Yeah, sure. In closing, I think that you will find that I am uniquely qualified. I bring an outside of the organization perspective to the job of fire commissioner at Fire District 6. Currently, at Fire District 6, 2/3 of the board is made up of former long-term employees or long-term volunteers within the organization. And coming from without, I think that I will be bringing a unique perspective, having worked and experienced outside of Fire District 6. I'm committed to creating a safer community, as said, through planning, preparedness, and effective emergency service delivery. And I'm going to do my best, if elected, just to continue Fire District 6's dedication to excellence in emergency service delivery. Thank you.
Oh, thank you both. Okay. Next will be the Port of Vancouver.